The Martians. Chapter V. She makes sense in a way though, doesn't she? Mitch said. We've already nixed doing the Ars 3 return. I'm not giving up Ars Force mission if we can do it and relieve Lewis, Watney and Orion. I don't care how popular Beth Johansson is or how many times she writes to us. Sure, but they can already have completed the mission objectives by the time Hermes arrives. If that's the case, why run the risk of landing and the return MAV launch? We can leave the MAV in place, and the HAB, and the rest of the pre-supplies, and create another mission in the crater for Ars 4, up to and including a permanent station. Ars 4 can switch their training to that now. Ars 3 can be the Uber drivers of space. We save a ton of money and get more data and research out of it. It's really a win-win. Venkat replied with Henderson nodding his agreement. Teddy did like the idea of saving a ton of money and getting a mission's worth of research almost free. I've considered that, but I still think that is too long to run Hermes without refurb and repair, and it's too long in space without a break for the Ars 3 crew. Teddy replied. Okay, but consider this. Forget the Purnell maneuver. Food is no longer an issue, and Orion should be a sturdy enough shelter even if the botany hab fails. Let's bring Hermes to dock. How long does the basic upgrade cycle take if everything is already in place? A couple of weeks. A month. It could relaunch quickly if we wanted, and it will arrive with a couple months left in the launch window at its current ETA. So instead of Purnell's 5-month return, we are looking at 7 to 9 plus the refurb time. The crew could come off, rest, see their families, regroup and then return. They would jump at the chance. And we would still get a free Ars mission, and be that much closer to a permanent settlement. Would 2 months be enough time for the crew to physically reacclimate to gravity and recover medically from the trip? No, but it's better than nothing. Martinez has been staying on them about gym time and Beck reports all are in good health. It would work. What about an engineer for the return to Mars? Add someone. Well, Beck is certified for the externals already, Johansson for pretty much everything critical inside except the reclamator, and we will be replacing that. There are a few others but nothing life critical, and if they break Watney will have something to do on the way back. Plus if there is a problem either us or Watney should be able to walk them through it, and most have a redundant backup anyway. The engineer is really on board to get everything working on site, and he will already be there. Without the extra person they get more room on the ship, and more room for the material Orion brings back. It's a good thing that ship has a SAT Hydrox engine or it might be too heavy by the time it gets ready to fly again. Our predecessors really did over-engineer that thing. Run it by medical, if they are okay, and Ars 3 volunteers, and Boeing can get the refurb done quick enough, that would work. Sounds like we have a final plan, if all that checks out. Mitch was tasked with asking the crew of the Hermes, and already knew what their answer would be. A couple weeks later, across campus at the training center, the Orion 3 crew were in the last day of a 3-day simulation. During it the trainers had thrown every problem they could think of at the crew, day and night, until all were exhausted. With just a few minutes left on the schedule, Washburn, Abernathy and Park figured their session, the last they were scheduled for, was complete. Then the year began. It took a bit to find the problem. While Washburn worked to stabilize the ship manually, Park sought to isolate the problem and Abernathy tried to not vomit. It only took a few minutes, but they seemed to last forever before Park isolated a fault in the secondary gyroscope control and took it offline to reset. The year continued but didn't get worse as the primary and secondary were no longer arguing with each other. Both would be needed to correct the ship's position though. You got it, Park? Washburn asked, herself at wit's end. This thing is flying like a hog. I'm going to try rebooting the auto. Wait. Give it a sec, it's 84, 85, 87, 90. 95, Park said as she started at the indicator giving the rate of rotation of the newly rebooted gyroscope. Okay. Kick it, reboot the auto now. Anna did and the ship's systems automatically corrected themselves. The simulator stopped acting like the wild mouse ride at Disney and came to a stop. The lights came up and hatch popped open. Mindy. Why did you have me wait? Anna Washburn asked. Oh. Remember when you switch from primary to secondary you have to spool up the gyroscope first to 100%. Same way when you are rebooting the bus. If not, it reads as a bad input and switches back automatically, and you are right back where you started. It takes a few seconds, but if you don't, you're in your role for 3 or 4 minutes more while it resets again. Just a quirk in the command code. And if you don't do it next time, you can spend hours vomiting in my simulator until somebody figures it out. The trainer's voice said over the speaker. Okay, that's it. You're as ready as I can make you. Each of you did a fantastic job. Now, get out, get cleaned up and get over to the meeting room at Mission Control. The bosses want to meet with you and I understand they have your ride home worked out now. Really great job guys, Dana said as she unhooked herself from the straps holding her to her seat. But why did I have to be here for 3 days? I hardly did anything. So you could vomit with the rest of us. It's a team building thingy. Washburn said with a smile. I need a shower. Dana replied. I need a drink, Mindy added. Hit the showers. The drink will have to wait, but after the meeting with the brass, I'm buying, Washburn announced. The crew arrived at the conference room to find Mitch Henderson and Venkat Kapoor waiting. Teddy walked in just after the crew was seated around the conference table. With a nod from Teddy, Venkat began. Thanks for coming. I understand you just completed training. Did it go well? Yes, I think we are as ready as we can be, given the circumstances. Washburn answered for all. Good, good. We have never put together a mission this way but are confident now that it is the safest route to take for the mission objectives. Your primary objective is your safe return and the relief of Lewis and Watney. Your secondary objective is to complete both the AS-3 and AS-4 missions. You have had no training on either of those, as you are well aware, however Lewis and Watney have. You will essentially be their labor force on arrival. The command structure will be as follows. Mitch Henderson will be running your flight from here, via the already existing AS-3 command structure. We don't have time to develop another. For the period of launch, obviously ground control at KSC will run the show, but once you break gravity, flight control at Houston will take over as is SOP for all our missions. By the time Orion launches, you will be all Houston. Within Mitch's group at flight control, you will have your own command tracking group on all shifts, red, white, and blue. They will be supported by the AS-3 groups, so you should be good. Candidly, once launched from Discovery, there won't be a lot for them to do if all goes well. We put some thought into your mission name and call sign. You know we like to use names from mythology, but we are running out of those. We thought about Iris, as she was, like Hermes, one of the gods' messengers, but you're doing more than being a message carrier. For a long time we have wanted to use Nike after the goddess that Athena carried, but there are advertising concerns and Adidas would probably sue us for promoting a competitor. So, you're going to be called the Roman equivalent, Victoria. This mission will be Victoria 1. On arrival, Commander Lewis will continue to be in ground command and she will organize you as she sees fit. On arrival of the Hermes, you will join that crew. It will be the current crew of AS-3, we'll tell you about that in a moment, and Lewis will assume command of Hermes. It has been decided that the Hermes will dock at Discovery Station. Teddy hated calling it SpaceX even though the company crewed it, and the crew will have some R&R while the ship is refurbed, inspected and supplied. They will then depart in a launch window that, while not optimal, is doable. They should arrive at Mars 6 to 9 months after you, depending on the launch date. Now, as to you, Psyche has monitored you during training and reports you all work well together without a lot of who's in charge here friction. That's good, but areas of control do need to be identified. Dr. Abernathy, obviously you will be in charge of health concerns both on the flight and ground. You will assist Dr. Beck on his return to maintain the crew. Follow the protocols. If someone on the crew requires rest, pull them, even though there will only be 3. It's going to be a long trip, so do not let everyday exhaustion become clinical. Major Washburn, you are to be in command of flight operations. Your job will be to maintain the directional flight of the craft, land it and the equipment sleds, and fly it back to Hermes. I understand the Doctor and Ms. Park have been trained to assist you, so you won't have to sit and watch the screens constantly. Initially in the flight you may not get a lot of sleep, we understand that, however. I didn't get a lot of sleep in the service, sir. She smiled. True enough. I understand that. But get some. Ms. Park and Dr. Abernathy will assist you, and Dr. Abernathy will make sure you are alert and able to fly. Ms. Park, so both of you will know, is the one that came up with the idea to use Orion. She is more familiar with it than anyone that is physically fit enough to fly. In fact, she is the world's leading expert on the craft. She is also, from her role in SATCOM and her work with the planning group, the most familiar with the mission and its expected challenges. Ms. Park, it is your ship. You are promoted to the rank of Command Astronaut pursuant to the General Flight Organizational rules. I would say congratulations, but given the task ahead of you, sympathies might be more appropriate. It's going to tough, guys, but you three are the best prepared, and it's got to be done. Our only other choice is to strip down the MAV and hope it can reach the flyby orbit by remote. And it probably doesn't have the fuel to do that. Any questions? Just one, sir. When do we leave? Mindy asked. 2 actually, sir. Does this mean that Mindy buys the drinks tonight? Commander buys the first round, that's the tradition. Commander Park. How quickly can you lose at poker? There is a primary launch window to Discovery Thursday evening. Teddy smiled, referring to the long tradition that the flight doesn't launch until the crew beats the commander in a game of 5-card stud. Pretty fast. Is our ship ready? Almost. You all need to meet with Elrond, and Annie has a press conference later to introduce you to the public officially. Tomorrow you fly to KSC, we will skip isolation as you can do that in transit to Discovery. Good luck and Godspeed. The crew didn't go out for a drink that night as all were too wound up. No one was upset about the command structure, although neither had known of Mindy's involvement in the flight planning. As they left the building, Mindy stopped both for a second and told them she was as surprised as they were. Mindy, I'll say this once. I don't want to say it again, and I think I speak for Dana on this as well. This idea you had for the relief. It got me my trip in space. You're our commander and we are damned proud. We are going to make this the best crew ever. No one had better fuck with you about it, or we'll both kick their asses. Understand? Thanks. Mindy, Dana added with a grin, I would follow you anywhere, you magnificent bitch. They were free to leave the compound, but decided to stay on campus. Since beginning training, they had been placed in apartments in the astronaut training campus, and since they faced the press in the morning, all thought a good night's sleep was in order. Soon though, Anna was bored and made a run to a liquor store, then grabbed pizza, called Dana, and both converged on Mindy's for celebratory martinis and pizza. Mindy was just finishing up a call to her parents when they arrived. Her folks were both proud and terrified. The drinks flowed and soon all were relaxed by alcohol and carbs. They played the traditional game of poker with a deck that Mindy had stacked so that Anna drew a royal flush in hearts, Dana the same flush in diamonds, and Mindy the 2, 3, 4, 5 and 9 in 4 different suits. She really didn't like poker that much and didn't want to spend her last night in Houston playing it. So Dana asked, do either of you actually know Lewis or Watney? NASA was a close community, although huge, and astronauts met a lot of other astronauts while training, so it was a fair question. Mindy stammered, while Anna looked back and forth between them. I need to tell you guys something, the mocha-skinned Dana said as her dark brown eyes filled with tears, and I hope it doesn't get me thrown off the crew. I should have told someone before, but it's bound to come out, Mindy, and, well, I know Mark. I was his doctor when he got sick in Costa Rica. When he couldn't stay, well, we came back and applied for a scan together. He got accepted first. It was a long time ago and, well, I didn't think it mattered, but that began a night of confessions, so everyone was on the same level. All swore to never repeat what they learned of each other's pasts, and all kept that promise. No way anyone was going to get pulled from this team. The next morning the press conference went well. Mindy was pressed hard by the volume of things thrown her way, but the questions were mostly easy. Each reporter though kept referring to it as a rescue mission. Finally she had enough, and as Annie had coached her, and was sitting beside her in fact, she let go. Wait, stop right there. Victoria 1 isn't a rescue. Mark Watney and Missy Lewis are doing just fine and showing amazing adaptability to their circumstances. They could wait the full 4 years if need be, but it would not be safe due to the temporary nature of the HABs. We are not rescuing them, we are relieving them. Don't think of us as the rescue squad, We are the relief pitchers coming in to close out the game, and not just Ars 3, but we're going to do the Ars 4 mission while we are there. Earlier you asked as to the expense. Well, we are using a ship that is already paid for, and doing twice the work that Ars 3 was projected to do. This is a savings, and no matter what the expense, we are NASA, the American Space Agency. We don't leave people behind. We relieve them and bring them home. Everyone at NASA had heard these questions before, but of all of them, only Mindy could give that answer to a reporter without sounding angry. Annie knew Mindy was the sort of commander she could work with. As a result of this, Victoria 1 finally had the traditional patch worn by the crew. It was designed and embroidered overnight and had a clearly female pitcher, in a uniform that had a mini skirt, throwing a baseball that looked like Mars towards the viewer. A banner hanging across Mars read Victoria 1. Annie Montrose thought it was vaguely sexist, like the nose art on a World War II bomber, but the crew thought it was kind of cool. Enough were made for all of their Jump and Eva suits, plus some spares for them to share with whoever they liked. A slightly smaller one was available at the NASA gift shops and online by the next day, with tees, hoodies, caps and jackets within days. 2 days later the crew was blasted into space, and 2 days after that Victoria 1 launched on Orion 3. It was a 2-stage system, and after they had used maneuvering thrusters to move away from Discovery X and orient the ship, the first stage burned for 180 seconds before being kicked away by the second stage. It burned for a couple of minutes, assisted by the powered landing sled which was kicked away at the end of its burn. Anna flew the ship without trouble, and all burns were perfect. They would be at Mars in 7 months. Mindy only threw up twice, which was 1 less time than Donna. Anna seemed to be into it. "Hang on, Mark, I'm coming for you," each thought to themselves.